So over the last few weeks, we have seen crushing details make it into the courtroom, telling us exactly who AH is. Interestingly, though, for every proverbial drip of paint on the canvas or every declaration that we've seen, there's one or two that we haven't seen, and some of them, oh man, they're good. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this declaration in front of you. It has some great things, and some of these things aren't just AH. They're AH's family in this. How insane it is to deal with them. Buckle up for this ride because you're going to enjoy it for sure. So hey there, and man, that picture didn't look very fun at all, getting sucked right out of a window. Not good times at all. So today, you and I, we are returning to that wonderful world of Johnny Depp coverage. And that world, you have to admit, wouldn't be the same without the person with the googliest of eyes sitting right over my shoulder. You creep me out with those on. You creep me out indeed. Now, to give you a little insight into the document we're going to discuss, when people were speculating on what might or might not end up in the courtroom, this thing actually got a soundbite from Adam Waldman, Johnny Depp's lawyer. Props to you too, man. You are comedy gold. And he had a lot of things to talk about, including why AH's father threatened to what now, Johnny Depp? That's right. That's the kind of deposition you're going to look at. Quote, Johnny Depp's lawyer, Adam Waldman, says his client believes one of the main objectives was, dun-ta-dun, money. That's right. Who would have guessed that a gold digger might be motivated by money? Mr. K, that's what we're going to say. Man, I'm a poet and don't know it. Man, that's terrible. Chilling first-hand experience with AH and her family exposes the motive behind AH's entire hoax, money. Man, that was terrible. Money is why AH moved her family and 4 other co-conspirators into Johnny Depp's multi-million-dollar penthouse that's rent-free. And money is why AH lobbed Mr. Depp's finger off with a thrown vodka bottle the day his attorneys asked to sign a post-nuptial agreement. And yes, I'll change up a couple of words. Money also is why AH ambushed Mr. Depp again with that complete hoax the day he informed her that he was out that dough. And money is why AH's PR and legal team sent Mr. Depp an extortion letter, and you should read it. It definitely is an extortion letter, prior to placing her hoax on the cover of People magazine. And money is why AH's father threatened to what now again? Johnny Depp. Yes, that is this kind of document we're going to be looking at. Gold, my friend. Gold in these hills. So this first part, it gives us an insight into exactly who Mr. K is, and it's fascinating because, working class and also tied into the police. How many people in this thing are tied into the police that back Johnny Depp? So we skip to 2 because the first part is just form letter, basically. I'm a mechanic by trade who founded 2 companies, Performance Truck Repair and Performance Allison Transmissions. My company employs approximately 30 people, so not only working but also in a supervisorial capacity. I'm the son of a retired Los Angeles County deputy sheriff who spent many years as a detective sergeant in the Homicide Bureau. So, like I said, another police officer that is not coming out in support of AH. Color me shocked. I wonder if she's going to say that he's bought off too. At the request of Mr. Depp, oh yeah, definitely bought off, right? I helped facilitate an agreement with the network to restore and customize his wife AH's 1968 Mustang on an episode of the series Overhauling. I was successful in doing so and filming of the reveal in December 20th, 2014. Now, as a brief aside, this is well documented, and you can see exactly how Johnny Depp was in their relationship. You have articles like this: Johnny Depp plays prank on wife AH on reality show Overhauling. And if you look at the pictures from that time, do you see any issues or animosity? No. She doesn't showcase any of that. In fact, if you look through the entirety of it, you can kind of see who's in charge and who's probably inflicting, well, what we're going to find out later. So continuing on what Kurtz would call the horror indeed. On one occasion, I had a most unusual and unsettling experience with AH. After installing a new sound system in her Mustang, she asked me to visit her at, well, a specific location. She wanted wanted me to instruct her on how to operate the touchscreen and also teach her how to interface her iPhone with the onboard system, make hands-free calls, map driving instructions, contact lists, play music, etc. When I arrived precisely at the appointed time, she wasn't there. It would be 3 hours before she came down from the penthouse to the parking garage. So he waited for 3 hours. That's insane, isn't it? After she came down, we found the Mustang. Sounds like it was lost, doesn't it? She got in the driver's seat, I in the front passenger's seat. She seemed in a very happy mood. We spent a moment exchanging greetings. She then said something weird. Ooh, here we are alone together in a parked car in a dark parking garage. We could do anything in here and no one would see us. She added to that statement. However, I am uncertain today of what exactly she added. I was speechless and did not make any reply to that, nor did I make eye contact. She was wearing a white t-shirt and denim jeans and dark shoes. My only response was to say, okay, let me show you how that sound system works. Chicka chicka bow wow. Light me some candles, baby. I continued to instruct her on the system, and she picked up on the procedures quickly. She asked me to show her how to get to her contact list on the touch screen of the sound system. I did just that, and I noticed her phone was already set to a person in the contact list display onto the car screen. It was the name and phone number to Dr. David Kipper, who happens to be a client of mine. I said, "Oh, do you know Dr. Kipper too?" AH's response was completely unexpected. She turned to me, shockingly icy, and said, "How the do you know Dr. Kipper?" I quickly apologized for asking and said it was none of my business and told her Dr. Kipper was a client of mine. The tension in the air was extreme at that point. While she gave me the silent treatment, then she quickly exited the car while saying, "It's none of your business. Man, maybe you should have took her up on that candles and slow jazz." Continuing. She walked to the penthouse elevator, and I never saw her again. I sat in the car for a moment, got out, walked downstairs, and went home. I reported the entire interaction to Johnny's property manager, Mr. Murphy. Man, Mr. Murphy gets a lot of complaints. He's also the guy who got to handle Poopgate and also see some pulled out hair that wasn't real. And later to Johnny's sister, Christine. Later, Mr. Depp and AH separated. However, I continued to work both for Mr. Depp on his automobiles and also for AH on her 1968 Mustang. After receiving the vehicle, AH had instructed me to implement several changes and additions to what the network had done to her car. So she wanted additional work. I followed her instructions precisely. So here's where the monetary considerations come in, where she has to foot the bill. And you know what? She brought this up in the courtroom too, complaining, "Well, Johnny, he wanted it done. He should have kept going with the bill," even though she had called him all these terrible things in public. So I was told to continue billing Johnny for work performed on his vehicles and to invoice AH directly for work performed on her Mustang. I immediately informed AH of the instructions I had been given by Mr. Murphy. So there you have. She's going to have to pay for it. She doesn't want to do that. But hey, that's part of the procedure too. Breaking up, maybe you got to pay for your stuff for once. The reply I received, what can only be described as an extremely hostile response from AH. I did my best to convey to her that I did not wish to get in the middle of a dispute between her and Mr. Depp. She did not receive this information very well. Her first reaction was to verbally abuse me with explicitives, threaten, and continue rant over what she claimed was an unfortunate financial downturn of her personal finances caused by Mr. Depp, aka she has to pay for things herself. And did you know, by the way, that she was spending $10,000 per month just on personal effects? She wasn't paying for things like this. He was. At one point, she said, "You MFer, you're screwing me." AH stated that there was a legal agreement between herself and Mr. Depp drawn by her attorneys and signed by both parties. She said in this agreement, Mr. Depp was responsible for paying her bills and that if I expected payment, that I should forward bills to Mr. Depp, aka he's going to continue paying no matter what. what. I asked her to send me a copy of the agreement and that I would consult with Mr. Depp's people to form an opinion of the agreement. Now look at her do this dance because this doesn't really exist. She said it was privileged and that she could not send me the agreement. Therefore, I refused again to follow her billing request. The verbal abuse continued, including words like bleeping, 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 and much bleeping. Then she said that she hadn't authorized the repairs, and I reminded her of the phone conversation and the text messages that contradicted that statement. A.H. tried everything to convince me to release the car to her without payment. Yeah, right. She claimed to not have the money. She said, Johnny's not paying my rent. He's not paying my bills. Bleep him and bleep you and bleep Christmas too. The final phone conversation I had with her was very unpleasant for me. Like that was a lot of fun. I'd had enough of the verbal abuse and threats and decided to no longer respond to attempted text or phone calls from A.H. Now we heard Kevin Murphy do something like this and other people, and well, you know that's not going to go good. Then at one point I demanded cash only, and I informed her accountant Hector. My conversation and communications with Hector were pleasant. After A.H. was informed about the new cash-only policy, she flipped out at me over the phone, the abuse worse than before, yelling, cussing, and threatened me with legal action. A.H. said that I had broken our agreement to satisfy the open invoices. She also stated that I was a dishonorable piece of bleep. And here comes Daddy into the picture. During the attempt to facilitate the repairs, modifications, and additions to the Mustang, I received many text messages and phone calls from A.H.'s father, Mr. David Hurd. After the separation of A.H. and Mr. Depp, A.H. became very bitter toward Mr. Depp. During a phone call with me, he stated, that bleeping piece of bleep is bleeping me too because I'm supposed to get 10% of the money, and without it, I can't produce the movie I was going to make. Wow. And he's going to ruin my baby girl's career and blackball her in Hollywood? Probably so. If I could, I would after she said that stuff. And when I get to him, I'm going to beat the bleep out of him, and I'm from Texas, and men from Texas carry 45s, and Johnny is going to meet his bleeping end of mine. Wow, fun times, huh? I told A.H. that it sounded to me like he was drunk. He said, yeah, maybe I am, and I'm going to shove the whiskey bottle up your bleep. Man, they have a thing about bottles and body parts, don't they? I strongly advised him to stop making that type of threat about Johnny and that kind of threat of violence against me. After getting off the phone, I called Mr. Murphy instantly and reported what A.H.'s daddy had threatened, advising him to report it to Mr. Depp's attorney. He assured me that he would. Having been raised by a deputy sheriff's homicide detective, I knew to take such threats seriously. You know what's interesting, too? This is the person that A.H. and A.H.'s sister have thrown under the bus to almost everyone, saying that he did, well, let's just say terrible things. And also, she said he was basically just like Depp, and they had some kind of verbal arrangement there. They were actually backpatting. But yeah, you see what kind of things that people had to deal with that weren't even associated there. You see how money drives things. And this, like I said, this is one of many documents that weren't allowed because they said, well, we're not here to judge character. We're just here to listen to this person apparently judge someone else's character. But I thought this was fascinating. I thought maybe you would find this fascinating too, because Johnny Depp, apparently the lay people like myself, people like this person, you know, that they're out there working, he can get along with them. But when A.H. has to interact there, you see how that goes. But anyway, you tell me what you think about this. Man, this is good. So to close this out, I want to sincerely say thank you. You make these endeavors possible. You make these videos work. Without you, none of it does. So, honestly, sincerely, thank you. I want to mention our comic book, too. It's in demand, meaning we're working on it, and we need your help getting the word out. I mean, we've had a massive success here, but you wouldn't ever hear about it because comic book media, they freeze us out. Comic book pros, they talk about us like we're N to the A to the Z to the I's because of the stuff we cover. But that's okay. We don't need them. We need you. And thank you for helping us share that. Also, we're almost to 100,000 1,000 subscribers. I mean, we are barely off of that number, closing in on less than 900, and you're to thank for that. So sincerely, thank you, appreciate you. You make everything here work again. And yeah, like I said, I appreciate the heck out of you. Until next time, thank you.